Oh look, Shelley using AI to put you in the heart of the Ferrari garage. I'm sure that won't be used for nefarious reasons whatsoever.
Hi, Osama. Are you ready? You're going to need this.
That's rude.
Hey there guys, I'm Will, and welcome to the Comedy Review, the show that's darker than holy shit. It's also the show where we talk about things that happen in motorsport. Things like this. Max Verstappen tries out being a virgin, George Russell experiences life as the working class, and NASCAR does, well, NASCAR things. As per usual, lots to get into, starting right here. All the talk in the last fortnight has surrounded Max Verstappen, coming off the back of his second race win in a row in Baku, and whether he can now take the championship fight to the nursery in the final 7 races of the season. I've already spoken about it all in this video, but what makes the surprise title challenge even more impressive is that he's seemingly managing it all while off completing side objectives at the same time. Verstappen partnered up with who I'm still convinced is that guy who likes trains a bit too much from TikTok for his first GT3 race at the Nordschleife last weekend, and proceeded to promptly whoop the asses of the field, the Flying Dutchman over a minute ahead of second place before handing driving duties to Francis here for the second half of the event.
It was really not made easy for me.
That gave Ferrari their first official race win of 2025, enough to rile Team LH back up and kill Lewis's beloved dog Roscoe. Sorry, no, I've been told I'm not allowed to make jokes about that. This was truly an upsetting time for everyone involved, and it was at least great to see the F1 community come together to rally around the Briton and tell PETA to promptly go and f*** themselves. In brighter news then, Romain Grosjean was back, and for once, not on fire, testing a Formula 1 car for the first time since he identified as a secondary school science experiment in Bahrain 2020. The Frenchman received a guard of honour as he returned into the pits, with even other teams getting in on the action. Not Mercedes though, they're still praying the world forgets about their promise to him 5 years ago. As practice kicked off then for the Singapore Grand Prix, the heat was turning up in more ways than one. The FIA declaring the weekend would take place under heat hazard conditions, meaning each driver had to fit one of these elongated catheters, conveniently shaped like an M, because Mohammed Bowles syndrome has to make everything about him. Alex Albon's Williams got a bit hot under the collar that didn't receive the same luxury, spontaneously combusting in the pit lane in protest, which was about the most interesting thing FP1 had to offer. With the session taking place during the day, it made run plans pretty obsolete, and times about as representative as your mum. Yeah, actually, I don't know what that one even means, to be honest. That's probably why Fernando Alonso entered the session fastest of anyone, his Aston Martin topping the times from Leclerc and Verstappen. The McLarens, meanwhile, were 5th and 6th, Piastri getting held up by Hamilton's latest attempt at a qualifying lap, but also apparently having an issue with his knob. That wouldn't be the only Ferrari-McLaren fracas on Friday, as Leclerc revealed he was solely on Team Oscar when emerging from the garage and shoving Nozza into the wall. It hadn't been an ideal start for last year's race winner, and that continued in FP2. The Briton 4/10 off pace to teammate Piastri, and thus reverting to the woe is me, I'm so shit mentality to garner sympathy on social media. Still, could be worse. You could be George Russell, who, as we saw earlier, was forced to walk into work earlier this week, evidently out of practice as he gave his W16 a nose job midway through the session. That brought out one of 2 red flags in this one, the other caused by Liam Lawson. The Kiwi admitted that despite a season's best finish of 5th at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, he was yet to receive a call from Helmut Marko, as apparently they only come after the bad ones. Liam was thus eager to hear from the Cyclops as he turned his V-Cub into the world's most expensive bicycle in the closing moments of Friday. An awkward moment then for Lawson, whose team now had to work all the way through the night to repair the car for Saturday. At least Hadjar was second in FP2, so maybe Liam could just return the favour, or maybe he can bin it again. Yeah, I guess he can do that too. Lawson's barrier fetish brought out the 3rd red flag of the weekend. As he went on to hide in Parc Fermé, Max Verstappen was flying in his Red Bull as he took it to P1 ahead of qualifying that afternoon. The team have a new front wing this weekend, styled in great finesse by means of an angle grinder. Only now it was paying off. Well, at least for one side of the garage, Tsunoda was down in 18th. The Japanese driver was much better in his role as a mobile chicane for the Ferraris, who were apparently happy about their session, despite finishing 8th and 10th. Williams were another team on the back foot, fresh off Carlos Sainz's podium in Baku. Both the Spaniard and teammate Alex Albon were showing off their affection for Marina Bay's runoff areas. Granted, at least none of them have exploded this time, so every cloud, I guess. FP3 would end with our daily Colapinto moment, the Argentinian surprise when Max Verstappen refused to despawn down at turn 14. Franco's form wouldn't improve come qualifying that afternoon, out in Q1, though at least ahead of teammate Pierre Gasly, whose Alpine had remembered it was French and promptly killed itself in disgust. That yellow flag could have caused disruption for the cars on their final laps behind, when they decided f*** it and just floored it through there anyway. That saw Hülkenberg and Tsunoda escape to fight another day, as the Alpines were joined in the elimination zone by Ocon, Bortoleto and Special. Q2 saw panic from Charles Leclerc's side of the Ferrari garage, as the Monegasque failed time and time again to get a clean lap together in the second session of qualifying. He'd make it at the death to push the Sauber of Hülkenberg out, as Yuki Tsunoda opted to box early, content with his spot at the bottom of the timing tower. Lawson and the Williams cars would make up the rest of that drop zone, an alright recovery for the Grove squad considering their struggles so far this weekend. Oh, never mind, they've just been disqualified. On to Q3 then, and all eyes were firmly on the Mercedes of George Russell. The Briton had looked sublime all evening long and strung together a stellar lap to go fastest on the initial runs, all while telling Singaporean Concrete to go and do one. Ollie Behrman was the Britain's closest competitor. Just kidding, he was the only other one to set a lap time. In fact, it was Max Verstappen in P2. The McLarens only 3rd and 5th. No prizes for guessing the order on that one. Norris at least had one final lap to improve his position, only in typical Lando fashion, he didn't. Thankfully, he escapes the bottle count as everyone appeared to be in the same boat. Notter instead decided his time was much better spent playing a prank on best buddy Max Verstappen, one the Dutchman didn't find particularly funny when it impeded his chances of challenging Russell's time for pole. It was the Mercedes driver on top then headed into Sunday, but with multiple teams in the mix, that shapes things up nicely for race day. But before that, it's time to find out who's our ex-bell end of the week. So I'm going to do something rogue this week. I'm not going to pick a Lando Norris fan, nor am I going to gun for Team LH. We did that earlier anyway. Instead, this account was brought to my attention at Crash Must Happen, who is coincidentally a Max Verstappen supporter, so hey, at least unlike other stand accounts, this one appears to have the gift of sight. Oh shit, now I wish someone would take mine away. If Lecum manages to take Norris or Piastri out Sunday on God, I'm writing a 10k fanfic where he impregnates Max. Now sorry, what the f*** is wrong with you all? Normally, this is the point where we'd find some of the more sane users on the platform tearing this post for a new one. Only this time, everyone seems to actually want this. Right, who created Drive to Survive? I want to f***ing bomb them. As it happened though, karma was still able to run its course, as this monumental rage bait failed, and instead, Crash Must Happen began receiving followers, which apparently they didn't even want. Enough, stop following me because of this, and do not accuse me of being a Lestappy. Yeah, I don't know what that is either. I'd literally be rather called Hitler. Well, it's your lucky day, because guess who just got invited into the Ferrari motorhome?
Hi, Adolf. Are you ready? You're going to need this.
Big thanks to this for making me read this, and if you want to nominate the next ex-bell end of the week, use the hashtag on screen, tag me on the platform, or join the Discord server. Now, let's just move on and get on to Sunday. Oh look, it's Nico Rosberg's rectum. Sunday night would arrive with the predictable scenes of an Alpine and the Williams in the pit lane, and then Lewis Hamilton and his traditional high spirits coming into the race.
What's it going to take to get another win here?
Miracle.
That miracle could just have presented itself in the form of God's piss as the cars formed up to the grid, half the track wet and half the track dry as the lights went out in Marina Bay. As it turned out, that fact would mean... Hang on, let me just check my notes right here. Cool. Russell would get away well, with Piastri looking to challenge Verstappen into turn 1. What the Australian hadn't considered, however, was his teammate actually getting a good start and making a bit of a run himself. That saw Norris get past his championship rival into third, colliding with both Piastri and Verstappen in the process, and thus setting his teammate onto his very own villain arc. As the Australian radioed in to see if papaya rules allowed him to clothesline Norris in return, Charles Leclerc had also made the start of dreams to be up behind the McLaren pair. Could the Monegasque now cause a further upset? Well, given the highlights have just jumped to lap 26, I'm guessing that's a hard no. Russell and Verstappen had boxed at this stage, McLaren playing a game of Simon Says in the pit lane to force the Dutchman to cover an imaginary undercut, though now the Woking squad faced a bit of a dilemma. Norris was holding out in the lead, so to build a tyre offset, while Piastri was now at risk of being undercut by Leclerc. Since Norris was in front, he was asked if it would be at all allowable to let the team box his teammate first and hand him the advantage. Norris initially agreeing to that request before realising he wasn't going to fall for that shit again. That meant Piastri was at the mercy of the papaya sloppy seconds in his pit stop, which to the uninitiated means losing several sloppy seconds to the lucky fan from Twitter they let have a go at taking off his rear left wheel. Fortunately, the 81 car didn't lose any positions. Fernando Alonso, who had been running a fantastic race up to this point, wasn't so lucky, however, spending 10 seconds to ponder how he was going to castrate his strategy team before coming over the radio to tell them in the most polite of terms to shut the f*** up. Back at the front, Max Verstappen was entering that stage of the race where he needs to find something to complain about, spinning the wheel and landing on, downshifts. Who could have seen that one coming? This time, the problem looked more serious, however, as his advancements towards Russell in the lead were halted by this moment at turn... I haven't got a clue, they all look the f***ing same around here. You'll probably have noticed there wasn't a whole lot of... what was that again? Oh yeah, racing going on in this one. The Marina Bay layout making it difficult to overtake, though as it turns out, if you give the leading car an engine issue, you end up with a Titanic scrap for 13th place. Alpine had a different issue. One of its cars was being driven by Franco Colapinto, who was busy terrorising the Saubers, and that scrap would soon become a problem for the leaders, who were very quickly catching up behind. Now, we've seen backmarkers have an impact on the championship fight once before, and not wanting any of that, Nico Hülkenberg found a more extravagant way of removing himself from the equation. Norris was loving all this though, using the traffic to get within DRS range of Max for second, even putting this half move around the outside of the Dutchman on lap 53. Finally, after all the build-up, all the suspense, this race would at least end with a cracker of a battle between two title protagonists. Just kidding, it was as f***ing boring as the rest of this one. A late driver for Hamilton's brakes, not wanting to be brakes anymore aside, Russell would remind us he still existed as he came across the line to secure a dominant victory, and the Verstappen-Norris podium meant McLaren now take the Constructors' Championship in 2025, which was so much of a formality I'd actually forgotten to put it in this initial script. I won't sugarcoat it, this race was pretty dull. A 3 out of 10 for me, and even then I think that's a bit generous. On the bright side, the clubs team off in the championship fight between the school children, and Max's second place keeps him on track to cut that lead down by the end of the year. With some Red Bull favoured tracks on the horizon as well, I think this one's far from over. We should wrap up with some shout-outs. Alonso did well to battle his way back into the points, and Sainz too, coming from his quali disqualification to 10th, which appears to have been missed by practically everybody. Let me know yours down in the comments below. It's now 2 weeks before the championship moves on to COTA, but I'll have plenty of content for you in the meantime, including this video on Mick Schumacher's future, which members and patrons can watch right now. Big thank you to them for all of the continued support. If you enjoyed this video, then I'd appreciate a like and subscribe as well. We're still gunning for that 200k by the end of the year, and every little helps in that regard. I'll be back very soon with another video, but until then, have a good one. No, hang on, I've forgotten again. I mean, off.